Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 311 of the Stacey West podcast. I'm your host, Ben, and this week I'm joined by Chris. How you doing, mate? You keeping all right?
Hello. Yes, I am. Despite the result yesterday, I'm all right, thank you. Both in regards to outlook on overall football for Lincoln City over the coming season, but also in myself as well, apart from having a very niggly, bunged up nose. But yes, I'm all right, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. It was very nice to get back to the bank on Saturday yesterday. I couldn't go on Tuesday. I got home late from I was working in Boston, so I had to get back. And by the time I got in, it was just too late to head out. So I wanted to watch it, but Sky Sports Plus wasn't playing ball on Tuesday night. Yeah, so I understand there are some issues there. But look, yeah, it was just really nice to get back to the bank yesterday, I thought. Really good to see everybody, but I didn't see you, Chris. Were you avoiding me?
No, not on purpose. Anyway, we got in relatively early, actually. So Joe and I, we went to Stack in Lincoln for a little bit of a bite to eat before the game. We got there much earlier than normal because of the warnings of the traffic, but we actually got in just in the normal time as we would. So we was in Lincoln probably about 3/4 an hour earlier than we normally would be. So we went and got a bite to eat there. And then went in the fan zone and it was rammed, like absolutely rammed.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant to see. Absolutely brilliant to see. Had a chat with a couple of people, but not really many familiar faces, to be honest. And then we just decided, mainly it was because Joe wanted a beer and he didn't want to queue for as long as the queue was in the fan zone. So we went and got one in the concourse of the GBM stand instead. Yeah, so I wasn't avoiding you on purpose.
The tipsy was absolutely rammed yesterday, which again, great to see. It's just they had a really nice mango and lime cider yesterday, which was
it was cider weather as well. Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was warm enough to enjoy a cider, and it was just beautiful. But yeah, no, I had a good chat with a few people. Back to my match day curry jacks, of course. It's always the way. It's worrying when you get to a point where you don't even need to ask them. They just kind of have your order ready to go.
The usual.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, and of course, picked up the third shirt, which is I think it's divided opinion, but I quite like it.
I didn't realise you was wearing it.
Did you just think it was a black t-shirt?
Yeah, I did. I think I really like the shirt. I think I might get it myself. As most of you watching and listening will know, I don't tend to get bogged down with shirts too often. I'm not that bothered about them, but I like the ones that are really unique, and that is really unique, isn't it? And it's quite smart. But I genuinely didn't realise on camera you were wearing a Lincoln City shirt. I didn't realise at all. It looks just like a plain black shirt. In person, you can see the little details on it, can't you? But clearly not on camera.
Yeah, I mean, if I lift it up, you can sort of see there.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, but look. I mean, look, yeah, it was really nice. And I had a few people sort of come up and have a chat yesterday, which was very much appreciated. But then we got on to the game. So this is where we kind of the fun stops for a little bit, but we can pick out bits, can't we? We've certainly had a brief chat, and we can certainly pick up little bits.
I think we can pick out quite a lot, to be honest. But I think the first thing that's worth touching on is the lineup, because from Tuesday night, of course, we made 8 changes on Tuesday evening, which was, I think, I was expecting at the time, we was expected to see changes be made.
Yeah.
8 was probably more than I expected, certainly for Tuesday night. But I think it was quite a telling tale in that the team that started, for us
reverted
yesterday,
straight back to the team against Burton.
Exactly, yeah. But I think from a Barnsley perspective, team selection was interesting because they lined up in a 3-5-2 just as we did, but really it was more of a 5-3-2, particularly in terms of personnel that played in those wing back areas. So they have played different people in those in those positions in different games so far. But Josh Earl played at left back, who started the season at left centre back. So imagine Sean Rowan playing left wing back. Basically, it's that style of player playing as that wing back. We know how solid he is defensively, Sean, but maybe did lack a little going forward when he played in that role under Mark Kennedy. That was kind of how Barnsley landed upon that on the left side. And on the right side, Barry Cotter played there instead of what's his flipping name? Josh O'Keefe, who had played 41 times at right wing back for Barnsley last season. Is a really attacking player, good technical player. He was not favoured at all for someone who was a bit more defensive and robust. So I think Barnsley absolutely were coming here with the mentality to keep us out. I think that's a real credit to us. And I obviously have a challenging start to the season, but I think I doubt they'd have done that last season.
No, there's a part of me that wonders if, obviously there's been, quite a bit of change at Barnsley over the close season, but there is a small part of me that wonders, is that almost a delayed reaction to the game away at their place last year, where it's like, right, we're not going to get battered again. We're not going to get hammered again. So let's go a little bit more defensive. Let's try and stop them from playing and stop them doing what they can do.
I imagine it was more of a reaction to how they played against Mansfield, to be honest. Obviously, like you say, a lot of change, completely different manager as well, lost a few players, but it's the fact that they changed on both sides. Bringing one more defensive sided player in made a bit of sense, but bringing both of them in was I was surprised by it. I was kind of pleased by it, because I felt that means that would allow us to put pressure on them, and it was just a case of could we break them down. But I'd definitely be less threatened by Barnsley if they haven't got O'Keefe running down the right wing, for example, and others. So they didn't offer a huge amount early doors until they did.
Well, there was one attack that we had before they scored. I think it was Bayliss played in Makama, and it gave us to me, that gave me a bit of an insight into, this is how we can potentially win this game. If we've got the ability to play those incisive through balls on the floor, use a bit of pace, we can get in behind them if we need to, and we're likely to potentially pick something up here. And it was unfortunate with that first one. And then, like you say, it was uncharacteristic from Mr. O'Connor. Unfortunately, the ball came across and he just didn't get enough behind it, and the header landed at the feet of Mr. Cosgrove. And I think we need to put a rule in place.
I know what you're going to say,
where we're not allowed to discuss opposition strikers, and we're not allowed to not allowed to denigrate them, at least. We can discuss them. But because we kind of said in a group, didn't we, that now that Gaz has said that, he's probably going to score.
Well, the thing is, it was a double whammy because we both said it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't ideal. So I think I'm going to touch on that attack, because it was 1 minute in that we had that break that was 2v1 for a few seconds. I don't know, was it? I think it might have been Tariq, because it was a very similar one. I think in the half, wasn't there? That was on the highlights. But I think right at the start of the game, it was to Rickworth potentially through to Makama, and it was 2v1, and he was unlucky not to get it through. We had a corner after a minute, and I was with you. I was like, okay, that's a good start. Really high pressure here. Obviously, didn't come to anything. And then, to be honest, the next 15 minutes, not a huge amount really happened. It was just a tight game. And then, of course, Barnsley got the free kick on the left-hand side, and we set up to defend a ball into the box. They knocked it relatively short to Mr. Roberts. Now, I've seen a little bit of criticism of him not being closed down, and I kind of get it, but you can't keep a defensive overload and also mark every single person on the pitch. Yeah. And if you're gonna, so then you have to pick and choose what players you want to kind of allow to have the ball. And if it's the 34, I want to say, year-old Mark Roberts, right-footed centre half playing left centre back on the left wing, I think if there's anyone that you're happy to deliver a ball in without a huge amount of pressure, it's probably him that you're allowing that. JJ McKiernan maybe could have got out a little quicker, but he was also on the edge of the box, set up to defend a long ball into the box off the direct free kick. So I personally don't have a huge amount of an issue with allowing the delivery. That might be a little bit different on the second goal. And then, I think Sean has lost his marker a little bit. So Sean actually he has two players to keep an eye on for some reason, which is strange. But he's also in a position to cover Pawdy if he misses the ball. And so one or two things happen there. Pawdy misses it and Sean clears the ball. or Pawdy clears the ball. They're the normal two things that happen there.
Yeah.
What happens is Pawdy just doesn't get a good connection on his header, which is uncharacteristic. It's just a genuine human error. It's not a sort of thing he's known for, is it? It's just a mistake. And then a good finish by Sam Cosgrove. It was a good finish. It was the only part of the pitch that he could have aimed for, but he got it right in the right area. But that was the first shot of the game. And yeah, that accounted for 0.31 xG. So it was a big chance. You know, it's like 1 in 3 of those go in relation to probability. And Barnsley only created 0.16 xG for the rest of the game. So that's one of those.
Yeah.
15 minutes into the game, you go, bugger. But we've shown enough to be in it. We know that we've got tools to unlock Barnsley. I was not worried at all. Genuinely, I was not worried. At 1-0 down.
You said as much. You said as much in our chat. You know, it was kind of. I think the feeling was, well, okay, we went 1-0 down relatively early last week, and we came back and we won the game. I kind of, admittedly, I expected a little bit more of a quick response, like obviously going off last week, and I think it didn't necessarily materialize like that. But the thing that I think a lot of people were maybe getting a bit frustrated about is something that I picked up on and I spoke with, I mentioned it again to yourself, Charlie and Gaz, and there just didn't seem to be any chance of us getting anything in the air when it's loaded into the box. There's a busy area in the box with Barnsley defenders, because their defenders were huge and their keeper's pretty good. I thought he had a decent game until a point we'll come to a little bit later on. But it didn't feel like we'd have any real chance of winning much in the air, and we continued to go down that road. I think that was where it seemed a bit frustrating.
I've kind of got 2 points on this, because as part of from set pieces, like we had like a million throw-ins on the left-hand side in that kind of next sort of 15-20 minutes or so after they scored, and I kind of agree with you there in that, like I said, they played effectively a back five full of 6 foot plus defenders specifically to deal with that set piece threat, and they dealt with it. I think there's no denying that. So we in that 15 minutes from them scoring. So 15 minutes after that, we didn't have a shot, but we entered the box 9 times. So the ball went in the box 9 times, and we didn't get a shot away. And so that's disappointing. But the positive of that is that we got the ball in the box 9 times. And as we found out early last season and the season before, is like Fleetwood at home rings a bell, as the others, is they weren't a good team, but they kept putting balls in the box. It might have been the season before, actually. They kept putting balls in the box. At some point, just probability-wise, one drops to you. So I think it was the fact that we had so many throws, and they seemed all seemed to be on the left-hand side, didn't they? So I'm sure Rowe must have had a sore arm after that. But it was disappointing not to get a shot away off it. And I saw Michael a couple of times encouraging us to go quick for 1 or 2, and we kind of didn't. But I've got a separate point on the long balls, because this is something that was mentioned on Tuesday as well, and I want to dispute it a little in open play. For 2 reasons. Number 1, because stats say so. But also number 2,
your face lit up then when you say stats. Yay!
But the thing is, you have an idea in your head about how you think you're seeing things, or maybe the reason why things are happening. And when the stats suggest that what you thought is correct, it's nice. It works the other way around. Don't get me wrong, I'm not always as excited to admit it when it's the other way around, when it shows that you're wrong. But I think it's interesting. So, of all the passes that we knocked, or that we attempted last season, what percentage of those passes do you think were long passes?
Ooh, I would probably say about. I would guess it'd be under 30%.
Yeah, well under 30%. Yeah, 17.29%. Yesterday, 17.01%. Also, successful long passes. Last season's average was 62%. Yesterday was 60%. So basically the same as we were last season in regard to how often we're doing it, and actually how often we are being successful. In terms of our offensive duels yesterday, so this is not just aerial duels, this is all duels that we're contesting in their third. We won 45% of them. That's pretty good going. That's a lot more than we won against Burton, by the way, and significantly more than Barnsley won with only 29%. But that includes ground duels and aerial duels. So the statistics kind of suggest that that's maybe not as true as it may seem. On Tuesday night, I absolutely felt we went too long too soon, particularly in the second half, as mentioned on the podcast. The one thing popped in my mind from a presentation. So if anyone came along to the data analyst presentation at the end of last season with Logan, who was the old data analyst. By the way, he's left the club now, Logan has, because he's now the data analyst for the New Zealand national team. So fair play to him.
Not a bad move, is it?
Not a bad move, no. But one thing was really interesting, because you always had an idea of how much depth they go in with data. You know what, we see what data is available, but you don't know how much of it is used actually in terms of the match plans. And what blew my mind, to be honest, was how much was used. So one thing he mentioned, I can't remember who it was against. It might have been Cheltenham. It might have been when we played against Cheltenham, or when he was planning for Cheltenham. And they said that they've identified that there's a particular area of the pitch where that particular opposition is really bad at winning second balls, whether it's because of their system, whether it's because of individuals in that area. So if we haven't got an obvious ground pass available, then we'll aim to hit a long ball, but we'll aim to hit a long ball into a particular area, not even necessarily with the aim of winning the first header, but actually we know there's a high percentage that we can win the second ball in that area of the pitch. And I think we won the ball back in their third a lot. So our counter press is really good. And again, just to kind of clarify this with numbers, and then I'll shut up for a second. We won the ball back in their third 23 times yesterday. Yeah. 20. I mean, that's a lot. Only 7 times Barnsley, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of the things that was quite obvious yesterday, was when, Jovan's going in for the ball after we've lost it, and he's retrieved it well, and he's put in a good tackle. We were very combative defensively in that final third. We're obviously trying to get the ball back. I thought we looked pretty decent in that area. It was just I go back to it. I think it felt like when we had the ball back, we then tried to play it out wide, put a cross in, and nothing happened from it. And I think that's where a lot of my frustration was stemming from yesterday. And I think that's where I've seen a few comments saying, "Oh, we didn't play well." When with Skibala's press conference, he said, "Oh, I thought we played well yesterday." And a lot of people sort of saying, "What game was he watching?" It's like, well, just because we didn't win the game doesn't necessarily mean that we played badly. However, I can see, if you're looking at, well, all we did was pump crosses into the box and nothing happened from it, I can kind of understand that criticism. But like you say, I think there was a lot more to it than that yesterday. Let's move on a little bit then from the first goal, because then after that we had, I think, 3 really good chances before half time. The first one of which, as you mentioned previously, was Makama's chance. Debrief gets the ball, breaks, and you can see Jovan just running into space. I think it was essentially a 2-on-1. The defender was quite a way back from Jovan, and the remaining defender had to make a choice: do I close down Debrief or do I run back to get Jovan? I think the ball across from Debrief was just perfect, really. Like, it allowed Jovan to just take it in his stride. And let's be fair, it's a really solid save to deny him that goal.
Yeah, it is.
There was a couple of moans and groans around me saying, "Oh, why didn't you take it with his left?" You think, well, if you'd taken it with his left and it had gone out for a throw-in, you'd be equally pissed off. Like, it's you can't win in that situation unless you score. But yeah, it was. I think that was a really, really clever move, and it was just unfortunate that he managed to get a hand to it in the way that he did, because it was a fantastic save.
It was, yeah. It was a really high quality piece of play by everyone involved. A great ball through from Debrief. McComm's done everything right, in my opinion. He's got the ball under control, which was difficult to do. And when a goalkeeper was coming out of that angle, if you're wide, normally the aim is to shoot across the goal. That's what you're always taught: shoot across the goalkeeper. But when a keeper's rushing out like that, that's as a goalkeeper, that's what you're trying to smother. The finish when a goalkeeper's coming out is the little dink over him back across his legs, that sort of area there. That is the way to score there. We saw Joe Taylor score a couple of goals like that last season. That is absolutely, like, in terms of coaching 101, that is the finish in that situation. Joe attempts that finish. He did everything right, and the keeper's got a hand to it and made a really good save. It was a big opportunity, but I don't think you can criticise anyone in that situation. It was just a high quality piece of football from a goalkeeper and two attacking players. So yeah, but we was knocking on the door at that point. And then there was a Ben House shot that actually went quite a lot further wide on the replay than it looked like from where I was stood in the sat in the stand.
Yeah, that was it. Like, you watch it go, you go, oh, that's inch. Oh no, it's actually about 6 foot wide. But yeah, let's not talk about that.
Yeah, but it was a great win. So they could play out and didn't really have much of a pattern to play out. And House, as he did quite a few times in the afternoon, won the ball back off the centre half, and eventually after a few seconds was able to get a shot away, more good pressure. And then of course JJ McKinnon's shot really did just whistle past the post, didn't it? Not long before half time.
That was agonising, because it was one of those moments you see it and either it just takes a little nudge as it goes through, or it's just a couple of inches either side. It was really, really tough one to watch that one just slide wide of the post. But because I don't think the keeper had it covered. You watch it back, I think the keeper was just a little bit too far to his near post to come across and save that. I think it would have just nestled in really nicely. But
I think it would have got in. Yeah, I agree. The angle that we sitting in the stand, it was like bang right behind the shot. It was perfect line.
Yeah.
And honestly, he even had a tiny little bit of left to right on it. And I thought it was just going to nestle in that far corner, but it, alas,
yeah. No, it was.
But that took us through in terms of the main chances, didn't it? Through to half time. So at half time, what were your thoughts in regards to how the second half was likely to pan out?
As I say, that there was frustration there. There was the frustration was, we know that we can do better than we have done, and we've evidenced that with the 3 chances that we've discussed. You know, the three big chances that we've just talked about, none of them came from down the wing, cross into the box, or, you know, deeper crosses into the box. It all came from little moves on the floor, and, well, you know, the ball through to Makama, for example, was just perfect. It was sat on the shoulder of the defender, managed to make it through without being offside, which, well, lots of other assistant referees may have flagged him for that, shall I say? But look,
I honestly didn't even realise he might have been.
Yeah.
No. Oh.
I just thought, it was. I just thought there was potential to go on and win the game, or at least get a point. I think I said before the game I'd settle for a point if we had to. But as the game went on, I thought there was definitely options that we could have, opportunities, I should say, not options, that we could have taken to either get 1 or 3. And I just felt that if we can utilize the strengths that we know that the team has, I thought we could potentially go on and get 1, if not all 3 points. But 2 minutes into the second half,
it
didn't happen, did it?
It didn't. No, at half time, I was really positive. I wasn't really frustrated at all, other than the soft goal. But you know, I appreciate, particularly after we've lost a game, people don't necessarily like to hear this, but a good way of analysing a football match is if you take the goals out of it, what happened in the rest of the game, because the goals cloud your emotions a little bit. But we know individually the goals weren't great. We'll touch on the second one in a moment. But I actually thought when the first half had finished, take the goal out of it, we've been by far the better team. We've got more than enough here to go and win the game. I didn't even think that we'd draw. I still thought we'd go on and win it at that point. I really did. So yeah, and came out in the second half thinking, right, here we go. Let's have a great start to the second half, and then all that positivity did get sapped a little, I have to say.
Yeah.
It was soft.
Yeah. I mean, let's look back at it, because as the goal comes in, we've talked briefly off air about this one, and you've picked up on something that I didn't pick up on at the time, and I don't think anybody really did until we've seen the additional replays. But I mean, look, they get a free kick. It's played out wide. The ball comes across, and I think, to me, it just feels like we've watched them score. Like, I know that's not the case, but it just, I don't know. I think Wickens is slightly at fault here, because he either doesn't come for the ball, whether it's because it's too high, it more than likely is, but he doesn't. To me, and again, I'm not a goalkeeper. I never have been a goalkeeper, except being the fat kid at school getting put in goals for for the last one to be picked. But you can see, as the ball comes across, he's so close to that near post that by the time he's turned around, there's so much room for Roberts to aim at. You think, oh Christ, what's going on here? And yeah, obviously, he's nodded it into borderline an empty net. But it just seemed like we switched off for 5 seconds, and by the time we switched back on again, we were 2-0 down.
Yeah, I have to say I hadn't even noticed Wickens there. I'd got myself distracted by what happened to Adam Jackson. To be honest, I hadn't even really paid a huge amount of attention to Wickens. I probably should have looked at that a bit more. I think for me, there's two talking points. Like I say, I can't comment on Wickens' positioning. Normally, I'd back the goalkeeper, but I didn't even notice it. To be honest, I was too busy concerned about, well, why didn't Adam Jackson contend the ball? And there's a reason for that, by the way. But firstly, I think it was easy to get the cross in. I think Dylan maybe could have done a little more to stop the cross. It just seemed a bit easy for the player to get past him and then get the ball in. But he's not a natural defender, and I think we still have plenty of players in the box. I don't think you can say you can like wave your finger at Dylan Duffy there. I think he showed some good qualities going forward at various points in the game, and actually some good defensive quality at time as well. But probably we don't like to see crosses coming in the box, obviously. But also, Mark Roberts, and there was no appeal in the stadium. I didn't notice it in the stadium at all, which probably says it all in the fact that no one noticed. There was much of a complaint from the team, other than from Jackson himself, towards the referee. But if you watch the extended highlights, and you can't even see it from the main angle, but on the replay, Roberts is holding Jackson's arm, so Jacko can't jump. He can't maneuver himself, and then uses that as leverage to get over the top of him and nod it in. And don't get me wrong, that happens in every single penalty box on every set play, and it's really difficult for the referee to see. But by the letter of the law, it's a foul.
Yeah,
it is, and it's a foul. I'm surprised we didn't. Now seeing it back, I'm surprised we didn't contend it more, because they're the sort of fouls that referees don't give unless you make a big meal out of it and they think, oh bloody hell, I must have missed something there. They're all kicking off. There must be something. The human at the end of the day, people are swayed in that regard. I've played enough football to know that happens a lot. If you don't make a big deal out of it, then there's no reason for the referee to make a decision. So,
I did feel yesterday, and I think I said this to a couple of people, like, to me, it felt like the referee was giving things based on vibes and not a lot else. Like, it just felt that there wasn't going to be a free kick given unless somebody went down, or they went down in such a way that made it overly obvious. And there were a couple of points where it felt like it was descending into a little bit of a farce. But I'm not gonna say we lost because of the referee yesterday, because we absolutely didn't. There are other factors involved.
We maybe did a little bit,
well,
which we're going to touch on later.
Yeah, I mean,
if this is a talking point and then a potential penalty that we're going to touch on,
if we're taking one particular one into account, then yes, okay, we fair enough.
Yeah,
I might retract that in a little
bit. At least a little bit.
I mean, it's not exclusively his fault. Yeah,
no, of course. No, you're absolutely right.
But yeah, I mean, look, I think there was now I've seen that instance back in the replay, like you say. I think if we complain about this goal, we have to maybe look at Pordy's goal last week, or Pordy's header last week. The second header last week. I was trying to think. No, he scored 2 headers. Yeah, Porty's second header last week, where he has, and I mentioned this to Charlie on the pod on Thursday, he does have two hands on the player, and he is using him as a bit of leverage. Now, I know that that happens week in, week out, but I think, it's a, in Formula One, you'd call it a racing incident. I think you would, you'd let it go.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but yeah.
Honestly, they're probably both fouls, aren't they? And
Yeah.
if we're happy to accept Porty's goal last week, which we all are because it gave us 3 points, then as bitter as I am, maybe it's only right that we accept this not given as a foul against Jacko. But it really was a bit of a kick in the bollocks, wasn't it, at that point? Yeah. Because I really felt coming up from half time, we had loads of positivity to kick on with, loads of quality on the pitch. I thought we were a better team than Barnsley for the majority of the first half. And then at 1-0 down, I think we've got every chance of going and getting back in the game and potentially not only drawing, but going back on to win it. At 2-0, that's a very, very different story and a very, very different feeling as well. But I have to admit, from that point, our reaction to going 2-0 down was superb. From then until the end of the game, we were really dangerous, really threatening. Obviously got one back. We'll touch on that in a moment, but yeah, it was good. It was genuinely good. We were making good decisions. We were winning the ball high up the pitch at times. We had good territory, good pressure. We weren't making any silly mistakes, which has been something, I'll be honest, that has been something that's been a little bit of a feature of all three of our competitive games so far. It's not being anything really systemic. It's nothing tactical. There's just been lapses of concentration or individual mistakes, which we've been punished from in all three games. But there wasn't any of that from 2-0 down.
No, I think maybe the odd misplaced pass, but they happen in games. You sort of take those and you move on. But what we're going to do is very quickly take a little break because we are half an hour in. So we'll take a break. Those watching on YouTube will say hello, and those that are listening, we've got some words from people that are giving TalkSport money.
Yay! Hello, everyone in the chat, by the way.
Hello, people in the chat. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
We've got a few comments here. We've got one from Mr. Godson, who says, positives from this week. 2 of our strike force have opened their accounts for the season.
A huge positive. Yeah, huge positive. And I think arguably our 2 first choice strikers, as it stands at the moment as well.
So. Yeah. Well, I think we'll probably have a little chat about that after we've looked at the game.
I think we shall.
And MK Spokes says, hey, everyone, how are we doing? Also, Billy Butter says, Mr. Tears 03 is the future. I thought garlic bread was the future. I don't know what that is.
Really, explain. Remember, I'm old. I don't understand.
But right, we shall come back in and we will continue talking about the second half. So there we go. Thank you to our sponsors for the week, I guess. But look, we go 2-0 down, like you say. There was a response, and it seemed to be that. Well, it seemed to me that we continued with the bits that frustrated a little bit in the first half for a majority of the second half. However, there were some really good moments. There was one moment in particular that I saw where I think I looked across and Skibala was going absolutely ape to say, just get Duffy forward, get somebody out on the wing instead of trying to put the cross in and do what we're doing. So we're waiting for that moment. And I think when people started to click with that, it felt a little bit better. And I definitely felt we could go on and get something from the game. And that was amplified by a moment when Ben House is chasing down a defender after a decent ball from McCarmer, actually. Ben House chases it down, forces a corner when I don't think he's really got any right to. That corner comes in. It's deeper than a lot of corners that we've already seen in the game. Gets headed back by, I think it was Porty O'Connor, heads it back. And then Ben House takes it down, spins, and what a finish that is.
It's a great goal. It's a great goal.
You can't, if ever you wanted to, describe a goal that will definitely get people out of their seats, it is that goal. It was just Really nice touch and a really, really clever finish as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, smart finish and won by himself, really. Mukama knocked a really good through ball back to goal with a counter-attack opportunity and then knocks it through for Harris to chase. And he did he chase it? My goodness me, did he chase it? Put the defender under pressure, forced a mistake and won the corner in the first place. And then, of course, game on at that point, isn't it? 70 minutes on the clock, 20 minutes to go. I genuinely felt we could get back in the game. I genuinely felt it was going to finish 2-2 at that point. At 2-0, I wasn't sure where we was getting a goal from. To be honest, I thought we were doing some things right, but things just didn't seem to quite be dropping for us. We had loads of times, not even where they're just heading the ball away, where the ball dropped in a 6-yard box. It was pinball wizard, and it just didn't quite drop for us. That's just bad luck, isn't it? Like, you can't. There's no tactical analysis there. That's just bad luck.
Yeah.
But then finally, one did, and Ben hit a fantastic finish into the corner of the net. Game on, 20 minutes to go. And then from there, I felt like it was a little bit like the Alamo, to be honest. I thought Barnsley were penned in really for the majority of that last 20 minutes. Only really rarely pushing forward. I know they've got something to protect at that point as well, but it was only actually in the last 9 minutes of the game that they changed their shape and went more defensive tactically. So that was just us being dominant. And there was a huge talking point on the right-hand side just a few minutes later. Wasn't there, Mr. Ward?
Yeah, I wasn't happy with that. At the time, I thought that's a definite penalty. And then having seen it back, I think there's some clips from some Barnsley YouTubers that have caught it in 4K, I believe the kids say. That honestly, when you watch it, I mean, we've got folks watching at the minute, and we've got Dom who says that a red card for the assault, you can't even tackle like that in rugby. It was just blatant. I mean, Deriqua takes the ball. I think he takes it past. He's either taking it past the man or he's past it by the point at which the tackle comes in. But there's no contact with the ball. He's in a different postcode to the ball.
He is, yeah.
And he slides in and he just takes both of Deriqua's legs out. And I think everybody. I mean, the players obviously haven't stopped because they're reacting to the ball that's come in. But everybody that can see what's happened, just apoplectic. You're going, how is that? How can you not give a penalty in that situation?
I don't know. It was so clear. You know what though? I thought the appeals were quite muted in the stadium. Maybe it was just like I said, I've bunged up. Maybe so I can't hear very well at the moment. But because I was with you, I was like, I was pretty vociferous. And my football voice came out, Ben.
Oh no!
As you called it.
Oh no! For those unaware, Chris has two modes. He has his, podcast Chris, polite, genial, all the rest of it, and then when he gets into it at football, he is a very angry man.
Sometimes I kind of get white line syndrome. It used to be when I was playing or managing. Is that as soon as you cross that white line, it's like a different person. But I am still pretty chilled when I'm watching a game. I'm pretty relaxed most of the time when I'm watching football. I don't tend to get caught up too much with the emotion. So when I do, like it's just it's something serious. And obviously, and the only time in the game really where I really got up and felt injustice and anything really strong was obviously that penalty shout. I was surprised that not more was made of it. But like you said, the ball was still in play, wasn't it, at the time? So.
Yeah, I mean, whether it was
just a stonewall pen.
Oh, it is, and I just don't understand how it can be anything else. It was
exactly. Yeah, I don't understand how you can just see that event happen and think there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah,
I don't understand what the ref thinks has actually happened.
Like, there's no advantage because if there's an advantage in that position, we score.
Yes, exactly.
That's the option, isn't it? You either from that position, there's either a goal or there's a penalty. They're the two acceptable outcomes from that position.
Yeah,
it was awful. And yeah, as I say, at the time, I just felt, well, that's probably the game at this point. Then, however, there was a moment again. We'll come to it. But yeah, it was. I don't want to be talking about referees 2 games into the season.
Oh, get used to it. You know what's frustrating me as well? Well, we're on the subject. So I was chatting. I had the privilege to chat to a couple of the players at the sponsors event a couple of weeks ago, and chatting to Paul. I asked him, are there any not rule changes or anything? They've been obviously they get told firsthand from the FA in terms of what's coming in. Last season it was the added on time, and the what's it I'm trying to say? Like disciplinary yellow cards, for example, for chatting back at the ref. And they said this time what they're going to be clamping down on is they don't want to be adding 15 minutes at the end of a game. They're just going to try and make sure they do it in the game. So they're really clamping down on it during the game. How many times did the referee ask their goalkeeper to hurry up? And did nothing about it. And I was like, that just waving your hand saying, go on, get on with it, doesn't do anything. It's just pathetic. That's not the referee, by the way. That is the rules. It's just going to get worse. It was absolutely infuriating. Don't get me wrong. With 15 minutes to go and we're 2-1 up, we will absolutely be managing the game and taking our advantage. But just generally in principle, not even necessarily for Lincoln City, just for the spectacle of football. If there's not a direct punishment for time wasting, then it's going to get time wasting, aren't you? Oh my God, it was infuriating. So
just a very, very quick one. Last moment on the penalty here. We've got Peter says, devil's advocate, Derico had played the ball before the assault happened. That makes it worse.
Yes, because it's a mistimed tackle. Yeah, it's a mistimed tackle because of that. Anyway, I get your point in that you kind of think the play is ended, but no, it's a foul in the box. Just quickly though on that assault, because Don mentioned the word assault, and we were talking about the penalty, so you may well be referring to the penalty. But there was comments by Michael Skubala in his press conference afterwards about
actually, that's
and I have to admit. There's obviously no replays of this anywhere that we can see. In the game, I saw a moment on Sean Rowan off a set piece, and he went down. I didn't really see exactly what happened. I don't know if that's what Skubala was referring to, because I don't know specifically what that is in reference to. But it's quite rare for Scoobs to mention something like that in the press conference unless there's something pretty clear. So I don't know, Dom, if that was what you was referring to Derikwa's penalty shout, or whether it was this particular instance. I'm not sure.
I mean, a couple of the articles that pick up on both managerial interviews. One of them specifically says that Skubala says, "I'm not sure we should say this, but I don't think you should punch people in the head and get away with it." And it specifically mentions in there an incident involving John Russell.
Okay.
So that presumably is at that point where Russell's got booked. However, there were. Dom does say here, I'm meaning when the player got booked, the ball was 10 feet away and brought our player down who was running towards goal. So yeah, it was that incident then. I mean, I saw. We obviously saw all the afters. I thought, I think it was Cosgrove getting himself involved, and there was a point where Cosgrove has basically got both hands on one of our players and is dragging him around, and he's 6 inches away from the referee. How is that? How does that escape punishment?
In that situation, it was really weak refereeing.
Yeah.
Just to hand out just a single booking from that quite big moment is pretty poor. I know you don't want to just kind of be throwing yellow cards out left, right, and centre, and you want to keep the game 11v11, etc. as a referee, but you've got to punish foul play, and you've got to stamp down on people bending the rules and taking the piss, frankly. And that happened. Now, that in particular instance didn't change the game directly, but obviously a red card would have done potentially. They already had 5 centre halves on the pitch. They're not going to bring another one on. So then you create space elsewhere on the pitch to try and create an opening. So yeah. Anything else on the actual 90 minutes that you want to discuss? Because I want to just go through the overall stats really quickly. But I don't know if there's any other talking points you want to bring up.
No, I don't think so. I think the only other bit that I really wanted to talk about was the moment when the keeper lost his head a little bit. Obviously, the ball gets comes through to him, and he misses it completely. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to take advantage of that. But for a good 5 minutes or so after that moment, you just think he's not with it. His distribution was all over the place. He looked really shaky for a good 5 minutes. And it's those moments when you think, if we could just capitalize on something here, it would make, well, number one, it would probably, I think if we score in those instances where the keeper's on a, he's wobbling a little bit, I think if we get an equaliser there, I think we go on and win the game. Because he would have just fallen apart, I think. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. But yeah, he looked really shaky after that moment, because I think it was fairly obvious where the fault lied in that instance.
Yeah, absolutely. He had no need to come out that far. All it was a little head back, stay in your box. Centre half's got it under control. Head it back, take control of the game. And he came out and there was a little mix up. Obviously, we was never going to capitalise on that. Not for a second did I think that was actually going to go in the net. No. But it was panic stations in the Barnsley defence, wasn't it? And yeah, we had a few moments, and then there was a few times in the second half, towards the end of the second half, where the ball was in the box and it bounced on the 6-yard box. Someone got a little toe on it, but it couldn't quite. He had a header. On another day, I really do think we created enough to win the game. But ultimately, if you go 2-0 down, you're asking yourself to have a lot of work to get back into the game. But I'll just go through the stats really quickly because and I know it's only numbers and this isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I'd like to reference this to last season if that's okay. Particularly a similar stage of last season. So yesterday, our XG was 1.33, so we didn't actually deserve to score 2 goals on the balance of the chances that we created. But Barnsley was only 0.47, so realistically, we should have won the game 1-0, or at least by one clear goal. Really, is kind of what those stats are suggesting. We had 14 shots, 7 of them were on target as well, which is pretty good going. Barnsley had 2 shots on target in the whole game. They were in. And obviously, there's 5 in total. Possession, we had 57% of the ball. We won the ball back 23 times in their third. They only won it back 7. We had 36 attacks from open play, 7 of those attacks ending in shots. So every single one of our shots on target, by the way, came directly off open play, which kind of adds to your comments from earlier. Barnsley only had 1 shot from open play in the whole game. Only actually put 17 attacks together in the whole game from open play as well. We had 2 counter attacks, both ended up in a shot. Barnsley only had 1 counter attack, didn't end up in a shot. We had 17 touches in the 18-yard box, and they only had 8. We entered the penalty box 30 times. They only entered 10. And if you look at those stats in isolation, taking the goals away, taking the score away, just analysing these numbers as we would prepping a preview for any opponent, looking into how they've been playing in their last game, in their last few games, what the numbers looking like, how can you build a picture of what's going on? You think, oh, well, it's obvious which team won that game off those numbers. And this time last season, we were getting results, but the underlying numbers were concerning. We won 3-0 against Blackpool we only had 4 touches in the 18-yard box in the whole.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember this was not long before Kennedy was relieved of his duties, but we were kind of saying the results are okay, but the underlying numbers are really concerning. And if they continue off in that direction, then the results will follow eventually. So all we're going to do here with an air of positivity is flip that mentality on its head. Didn't get the result we wanted, but all of the underlying numbers and all of the elements around the game suggest that if we do play like we played on Saturday, and it wasn't perfect by any means, but if we play like we did on Saturday, we'll win more games than we lose, and the results will come from it. So I think Gary put in his article a time to remain calm. Absolutely is. I've got no issues at all about our season. I'm actually less concerned now from the defensive elements than I was after Tuesday, because I saw I got caught on the counter a couple of times against Burton and again on Tuesday night. And I thought, oh my God, are we a bit more open than we should be? The goals have come from individual lapses of concentration. That's not systemic, and that makes me feel okay about it. If it's tactical and it's like, oh my God, like there's an issue here in the system and in the structure, that's more difficult to fix. If it's just someone making sure they're switching on for 90 minutes, then human beings are going to be human beings. I've got no issue with that. So I'm pretty positive still. Disappointed at the result, but just not at all disappointed or dejected or flat about the overall chances this season. Nothing's changed in that regard, really, in terms of my aspirations for the season. Still think we're going to be knocking on the door of the playoffs, maybe just missing out, but there or thereabouts by the end of the season, if everything stays as it is at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, it's as I said, I think to me, the satisfaction of the things that we were doing right yesterday was outweighed by the frustration of the things that we weren't necessarily doing wrong, but weren't going as well as we thought they should do. And that's on the balance of it. I think I came away feeling a little bit more frustrated than you did yesterday. Obviously, the big one is we've lost 2-0. 2-1, sorry. And going 2-0 down without really having much to show for it in the way of the goals that have been scored against us. Like, I just thought, well, yeah, like you say, poor defensive mistake, which very uncharacteristic for Paulie O'Connor, and then a goal given away where it essentially looks like we sat there and watched them score it. But look, let's talk quickly about the managerial interviews. He's obviously touched on Skubala's interview where he said that he thought we played well, and we just didn't necessarily have the cutting edge on it. He's brought up the fact that there's been an assault on one of our players, which again we haven't seen any footage of, so we're kind of going off his word essentially. And then he's obviously mentioned the penalty as well. So I think his interview was quite accurate from where I'm sat. I'm looking at it going, yeah, all right, fair enough. And then I thought, right, what's Darrell Clark got to say about it? And Darrell Clark, I think both interviews with both managers, they're both accurate. he came away from it and he says that it was nowhere near good enough. I don't paper over the cracks. The performance was poor. We were sloppy. We had 1 or 2 good moments, and I'm pleased to win, so I don't want to be too negative, but we have to be better. Our decision-making, transition of the ball was very sloppy. Went 2-0 up with a well-worked set piece that we do a lot of work on. Then we're sloppy and concede a goal, which puts us under pressure. We have to learn.
He's right. They were poor.
Yeah.
To be honest, they were. And the two frustrations to me, obviously I said our overall bigger picture, I still feel quite positive. The big frustration is we're better than Barnsley. That's a very poor Barnsley side. And Darrell Clark has said as much in his analysis. So the disappointing element, I think this is what kind of came through from Skubala's interview as well, is that we've played quite well, but ultimately we've lost, and there are 3 points available there, and we haven't taken them. So that is frustrating. Uncharacteristic mistakes is disappointing. You want, when a team scores goals, you want them to have to really work for that. I've got no issue with conceding a goal if it's a deserved goal. Someone's had to work really hard for a really clever piece of play, and we made it easier for them. That is obviously very disappointing. But like I say, that's more like a smaller picture view, and you can analyse that as much as you want. But the bigger picture, I still think there's so many more positives and negatives. But there's no denying that obviously we lost and we didn't want to, and we probably shouldn't have. So
I think we beat ourselves more than anything else yesterday, really, didn't we?
Yeah, and that's that is exactly it. That is where the big frustration comes. But underlying overall performance, across the whole 90 minutes, take those just a couple of moments out of the game, then on the whole we were pretty good and significantly better than our opponents. So if you're better than your opponent in most games this season, you're going to win more games than you lose overall. So we're all right. We're not the finished article yet, though, are we, Ben?
No, we're not. And I don't think anybody is. I don't think anybody's realistically expecting us to be there just yet. I think there is obviously still work to do. There are, by the sounds of it, potentially a couple more incomings before the end of the window. We will have to see who they will be. But let's pivot onto that a little bit, because obviously we are expecting some loans, I would imagine, at this point in the window. We know that by this point, we know that we like to get our business done fairly early. Obviously, there is the talk about Mr. Ring coming in from Sweden. But we'll park that just for the moment. I don't know if did you guys speak about that on the pod on Thursday?
We did briefly, yeah.
Okay.
And then, but since then, Gary has seen some new information on that.
There has been some new info.
Maybe it isn't quite as close as maybe initial paper talk suggested it was. So reading between the lines here, and this is very much reading between the lines and nothing that we know at all, is just maybe actually we're not as close as we think, because it would appear that there is an offer on the table from an English club who we assume is us, but there might be more than one. We don't know. But also, he's got a new offer of a new deal at AIK as well. So it would appear at the moment that the ball very much is in the player's court. It's not. My initial understanding was that he's out of contract soon. He isn't being offered a new one, so that's a prime opportunity to go and sign someone. That makes it more likely. Now that he's reportedly got a contracts offer from AIK as well to stay, maybe adds a slightly different dynamic to that whole situation as well. But that is certainly the part of the pitch. We mentioned on Thursday we expected if we were to sign him, he would be a wing back. He has all the attributes to play as a wing back in our team. And I think it is at wing back that we definitely need a bit more depth. We don't know the situation with Rico yet in terms of how long he's out for. We've still got Dylan's betting issues unresolved. We're not sure where they are. And even if Dylan has no ban, for example, and it's just a little fine, he can stay in the team, we still need more depth on that left wing back, particularly, in my opinion. So I definitely expect us to bring a wing back in some way, shape or form, whether it is Mr. Ring or whether it is somebody else. I absolutely expect us to bring someone in that position. And I think we need something, because I like Dylan. I think he's a good player, but I think he has some very, very definite strengths, but also some very definite weaknesses. And I think you maybe need to have a couple of different options. I think, in fairness to Barnsley, in their wing back positions, they have those options. They have an option for a more defensive minded player in that role, and they've got an option for a more attacking minded player in that role, depending on situation. We've only got one option at the moment, so we don't have that luxury. So it'd be nice to at least have that luxury, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And if we do sign him, and the club don't announce it with like a "you need to upgrade your doorbell" situation, you know, and you've got a doorbell and you get a ring, then yeah, they've missed a trick. There's something there to work with, I think. But look, yeah, let's talk about the other stuff that we you know, the other areas I think that we need. I think it's the transfer window, and we know the rules of the transfer window. Lincoln City need a striker.
The thing is, we don't actually need one in terms of numbers.
But it would be, yeah.
But we'd still like one.
Yeah, death taxes. Imps need a striker in the closing stages of the window. Yeah, I think these rumours about Joe Taylor don't seem to be stopping. They don't seem to be going away. I don't know if there is any truth behind them. I think the talk now seems to be that Luton may be selling him to Ipswich.
Ipswich, really?
That was one of the rumours that I heard.
To me, that's very interesting. I mean,
yeah,
whatever.
Well, there was.
I
think they'd said that they'd heard talk about there were potentially two routes for him to come to us. One of them was directly from Luton on loan, and the other one was he would go to Ipswich and then be loaned to us for the season, because there wouldn't necessarily be a chance of him
something
breaking
that's
into the first
team. Mentioning on that, and that would still work if he didn't make an appearance, but he came off the bench for Luton yesterday. So he can only make appearances for one more club this season.
Right.
So yeah, what if he does go to Ipswich? Honestly, I just haven't seen that rumour. To be honest, that could well be true. It's a sort of signing you can see an Ipswich Town making with the future in mind. But I just want to mention that. I know there's talk of bids coming in from overseas as well. So he's not going to be short of suitors, is he? I think that's the case, and I think a lot of it will probably depend on what Luton can do in the window between now and the end of the month as well. But I think there's no secret that we'd like Joe Taylor. We all know that
everybody would.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everyone in this league would like Joe Taylor, but we know how much he would add to our team. I do expect to see a centre forward come in. Whether it's Taylor or not, obviously we hope it's Taylor. I think just because of we know what you get with Joe, but I do expect to see someone else come in because of Tyler Walker's injury. But if we didn't sign anybody, we've still got 4 centre forwards. I can't remember that fit centre forwards. I can't remember the last time we went into a league season with 4 fit centre forwards, let alone hopefully 5, which is what we're aiming for.
Yeah, it was quite nice to be able to finish the game with 2 different named, regular strikers that we started with. Obviously before we've had to play attacking midfielders up front to round out games and stuff like that. But no, like for like, striker, and 2 different players. So it's a fair point, but it's just like having toys, isn't it? As a kid, you want more. Doesn't matter how
Yeah.
many you've got. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter
we're never
how good they all
satisfied.
are. You just want some more. But yeah, no, I think it's. We'll have to see what happens. But do you think there's anywhere else that we need a little bit of strength in depth, Chris?
In
If you say
depth,
midfield, I'm going to slap you.
no, I think we're right in midfield. You know what? Holding midfield, maybe. Just because we haven't got a like-for-like replacement for Ethan Arahan, but I don't think you can get one. I just don't think they exist on loan at this level. I think if we were to sell Ethan, then the club will have plans of who we would invest to directly replace him. I don't see us bringing someone in that position unless we sell Ethan. I think we've got enough players in and around there, particularly with Conor McGrandle's now fit, that can fill in that role. But of course, he'd be a big loss. The only big, it's not even a big, it's a big hole, but the only imbalance, I would say, is left centre half. So if Sean Rowan was to pick up an injury, we would be forced to play someone that hasn't got a natural left foot in that role. And I think it adds a lot of balance to your team if you can play a natural left foot there. But we also know Sean's one of our biggest assets. He's one of the first names on the team sheet. He is the first name on the team sheet in that position, no matter what, really. So if you're looking to bring someone in on loan, it's going to be difficult to promise first team football to that player. So yeah,
well,
I don't know if we're going to be able to do that. He did, yeah. Yeah, Tom played there on Tuesday. He did the day against Harrogate's on Tuesday. He has played there before. I've got no issue with Tom Hamer playing there as a makeshift. But I would. Yeah. What would you say? What do we need? We don't need anything other than what you mentioned. What would I like? I would like a centre forward because we all like nice shiny things. We definitely need a left wing back or cover or option. And I would like just another left-sided centre back so that we've got a straight swap in there if anything were to happen to Sean. So yeah, but I think on the whole the squad's quite good. And I had the pleasure to speak to Jez at the Arsenal friendly briefly, and also had the pleasure. He came and spoke to me. That was very nice surprise. And he put it really nicely. He said, "Right, the job now is to put icing on the cake in terms of signings. Like, I think we've built a pretty good cake at the moment. I think if this is the cake we had to present at a show, we'd think we'd be all right. But we'd like to ice it and put some extra bits and bobs on it between now and the end of the window. So that was obviously a couple of weeks ago now, but there's so much work going on behind the scenes that we'll never see. But I think we're privileged to know that at least we know it. We know it's happening. Yeah. So yeah, fingers crossed this week we see something positive on the transfer front.
Absolutely. Right. Well, I think we are hurtling towards the end of the podcast. Is there anything else that you want to have a chat about or that you need to bring up?
No, all good this end, thank you.
Good stuff. A couple of things that I wanted to briefly mention. The first one being the Stacey West hoodies and running tops. If anybody still has yet to pick them up, I have left them with the folks in the Supporters Trust. They will be in their little pod or the building that they have in the fan zone. They're available. I think I saw 2 or 3 people yesterday, and I know they picked them up. So I, as far as I'm aware, there are 2 left there ready to pick up. If you have ordered one, I have the names, but I don't have them up on my screen at the moment. I will also drop an email out in the week to say that they're available for pickup. So that is very good. And also, yeah, big thanks to Rob and everyone at the Trust for allowing us to drop them off.
Thank you very much. Just quickly on that, someone asked me yesterday if we're going to do another run of them. I don't know the answer to that question, by the way. But someone mentioned it, so I thought I'd bring it up live.
I did have that. I had a few people ask yesterday as well. So it sounds like there may be demand for some more hoodies. So let us know in the comments. Let's do the engagement thing. Let us know, and we'll see if we can get some more. But there was one other thing, but it has completely escaped my mind. So you held your hand up. Was that?
It was that. It was about the hoodies,
yeah. Okay, cool. Right. Well, that's been episode number 311 of the podcast. We will not have we will have one on Thursday. I was going to say we'll have a game on Thursday. I think it's yourself and Gaz on Thursday.
Probably.
And then we will have a super special one next week, primarily because you and Gary are both busy on the Sunday. But it's me and you straight after the game. Well, not straight after the game.
Yeah. Basically, as we get home. on Saturday after the Mansfield game. Yes,
it won't be straight after the game. So we're not 100% sure if we're going to go live on YouTube with it like there and then. I imagine there will probably need to be a little bit of editing as we collate stats live.
Well, that's a good point, actually, because normally we get stats off Y Scout and that doesn't get published till the next day. So we'll have to get them from elsewhere this time, which aren't as consistent. But hopefully it's a nice, convincing victory and it's nice and easy to talk about.
We can just sit there and go, yay, for an hour.
That's fine. I'm sure everyone would listen to that, wouldn't they?
Oh dear. But yeah, look, thank you for joining us, guys. If you have enjoyed it, I'll say do drop us a like, leave us a comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check us out on Patreon. You'll get access to our Discord, and subscribe to the podcast. Tell a mate, all of that good stuff. And we will see you next weekend. Well, we'll see you next Thursday. Up the Imps.
Up the Imps.